You know that feeling when a $1,000 emergency hits, like a car repair that costs $800 out of nowhere, a doctor bill for a kid's ear infection that adds up fast, or the water heater giving up the ghost on a cold morning, and your stomach just drops because you realize it's coming out of credit cards at 20% interest, borrowing from family again, or scraping together the next paycheck while delaying rent or groceries to make it work. That exact panic, that knot in your gut, is something most people feel way too often. In early 2026, the stats show this isn't just you, it's almost everyone. The numbers are shocking, eye-opening, and honestly a little depressing at first glance, but they're also the wake-up call we need to stop feeling stuck and start moving differently. My name is Aisha, and I spend way too much time digging into these kinds of stats because I've lived that panic myself, checking the account late at night, seeing the balance too low, feeling that wave of dread wash over me while trying to figure out how to stretch what's left without breaking something else. If you're in your late 20s to late 30s, grinding a regular job that pays okay but never quite enough after taxes, rent, loans, and life, maybe raising little ones, or just trying to keep your head above water, this video is for you. I get it. We're all in survival mode more days than not, doing that constant mental math on every expense, feeling like one bad surprise could tip everything over and force choices we don't want to make. But here's the thing. These stats aren't here to make you feel worse or hopeless. They're proof you're not failing alone or uniquely. They're also a roadmap showing exactly where most people are stuck and where the biggest opportunities for change are hiding. So let's walk through the most shocking money stats of the average person in 2026, normalize what you're feeling, and then flip it into something actionable so you can start building real breathing room. Let's start with the paycheck-to-paycheck reality, because this is where it all begins for so many of us. How many times have you felt like every dollar is already spoken for before it even lands in your account? Surveys from Bank of America Institute, MarketWatch guides, Lending Club, and others in late 2025 into early 2026 still show around 60% or more of Americans reporting exactly that feeling. Stricter definitions put 24–30% of households in true paycheck-to-paycheck territory, where necessities like housing, food, utilities, transportation, and minimum debt payments eat 95% or more of income, leaving almost nothing for savings, emergencies, or anything else. Broader feelings of being financially stretched hit 57–67%, depending on the poll. It's exhausting. That background hum of stress never fully switches off because you know the next bill, repair, or doctor's visit could make everything wobble or worse. And it's not just a feeling, it's the reality for millions. When you add up rent, which has risen 20–30% in many areas over the last few years, utilities, debt minimums, food, transportation, and childcare, there's often little left for savings or unexpected costs. This isn't laziness or bad habits, it's math. For someone earning $60K, $80K take-home after taxes, a typical budget looks like rent $1, $500 $2, $000, utilities $200 $300, food $500 $700 for a family, transportation $300 $500, gas, insurance, maintenance, debt minimums $400 $800, student loans, car, credit cards, childcare $800 $1, $500 if you have kids. And suddenly, you're at or over 90% of income before you even think about savings or fun. Any extra goes to catching up on the last surprise expense. That's why so many feel like they're running on a treadmill. Progress feels impossible because the baseline costs keep rising. But knowing this normalizes it. You're not alone in feeling this way. Most people are. And the good news? Recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. You don't need a massive raise to start shifting things. You need to see the gaps and plug them one at a time. The emergency savings gap is brutal and getting more attention in 2026 reports. Bankrate's latest emergency savings report, polled in late 2025 and published early 2026, found only about 30% of Americans say they would cover a $1,000 emergency expense using savings alone, meaning 7 in 10 would scramble hard. They'd rely on regular income that's already tight, cut spending drastically elsewhere, go into more debt, borrow from family or friends, or some combination that adds even more pressure and anxiety. Fewer than half, 47%, say they have sufficient liquidity or access to funds to handle a surprise without major disruption or long-term fallout. U.S. News 2026 Financial Wellness Survey shows 43% couldn't cover $1,000 from savings, and nearly a third have less than enough to cover even 1 month of living expenses if income stopped. The median emergency fund balance, around $5,000, that's it. Half what some earlier surveys showed just a year or two back. Barely covers 1 or 2 months of basics for most households earning $50K, $100K after rent, food, utilities, debt minimums, and transportation. Think about what that means in real life. If your monthly expenses are $3,000, rent $1,500, food $600, utilities $300, transportation $400, debt minimums $500, MISC $300, $600, $5,000 is 5 months. One job loss, one medical issue, one major repair, and you're scrambling. Many people in our age group have even less. Bankrate notes that younger adults, under 40, often have median emergency savings under $3,000, while some reports show nearly 40% of millennials and Gen Z have $500 saved for emergencies. That's not laziness. It's the result of high living costs, stagnant wages in many sectors, student loan payments averaging $300 500/month, and the fact that entry-level or mid-career salaries in many fields haven't kept pace with inflation and housing. Then there's the credit card side, which is honestly brutal and getting worse for many. About 29% of people have more credit card debt than emergency savings, meaning the plastic is their de facto safety net instead of actual cash buffer, which creates a vicious cycle. Average credit card debt for those carrying balances is around $9,000 per person, with total revolving credit card debt hitting $1.28 trillion nationally according to New York Fed Q4 2025 data, up $44 billion in the quarter alone, 5.5% year-over-year growth. Interest rates often 19-22% or higher mean that debt grows fast if you're only paying minimums. $10,000 at 20% adds $2,000 a year in interest alone. Money that vanishes forever without touching the principal, while your emergency fund stays flat or shrinks. Let's break that down further. If you're carrying $10,000 in credit card debt and paying the minimum, usually 2-3% of balance or $25.35, whichever is higher, you're mostly paying interest. At 20%, minimum payment might be $200 $300/month, but $150 $200 of that goes to interest in the first few years. The principal barely moves. Meanwhile, if you had that $200 month free, no debt, you could build an emergency fund fast. $200/month at 8% return compounds to $30,000 in 10 years, $100,000 in 20. But instead, it's feeding the debt monster. TransUnion and Experian reports from early 2026 show credit card delinquency rates, 30-plus days late, are up 10-15% year-over-year for younger borrowers, meaning more people are falling behind, which hurts credit scores, raises future borrowing costs, and keeps the cycle going. This debt versus savings imbalance is one of the most shocking parts. When debt savings, your net worth is negative on liquid assets. You're underwater even before counting home equity or retirement accounts. For many in our age group, that means living with constant anxiety. What if the car breaks? What if I get sick? What if I lose hours at work? That fear keeps people in jobs they hate, saying yes to extra shifts they don't want, avoiding risks that could lead to better opportunities. It's survival mode on steroids. But here's the hopeful part. Opportunity cost math shows how flipping this savings debt changes everything. Small redirects compound into real momentum. Say you're paying $200 month minimum on credit cards. Redirect $100 month into an index fund at 8% average return. Over 20 years, over $50,000. Full $200 month after paying off debt. $100,000 plus in 20 years, $200K plus dollars over 30. Basic compounding shows debt traps keep us stuck, but redirects build momentum. Net worth stats tell a similar story. Median net worth for under 40s is low, around $25,000.90,000 depending on age bracket, Fed, and Empower data. But medians stay closer to $20K, $50K for many because averages get skewed by outliers. Retirement savings median for 65 plus is around $87,000, not nearly enough for comfortable retirement without heavy social security or working longer. The survival mode keeps people trapped, but small shifts, build 10K buffer first, flip fear to freedom. Confidence compounds when savings debt. You negotiate raises, spot opportunities, stop lifestyle inflation. Picture the other side. Emergency fund $10K, $15K, $1,000 surprise paid cash, debt payments now investing, better sleep, freer career, guilt-free yesies. The positive loop starts. Less stress, right arrow, better focus, right arrow, higher earnings, right arrow, more investing, right arrow, faster freedom. These stats aren't doom. They're your wake-up call to start small and win big. You're not behind forever. You're at the beginning of flipping the script. Keep going, one intentional step at a time. Your future self is already thanking you. If this hit home and made those shocking numbers feel less overwhelming, give it a thumbs up. And if you want more real stats breakdowns plus practical ways to beat them, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got a lot more ground to cover together. I'll see you in the next one. Now go check your own numbers and take that first small step today. You've got this.